Morning. Welcome back to Appiah Counselling Podcast. Every episode starts with a question. Sometimes a question someone has asked me in counselling. Other times it's one people quietly ask themselves but never say out loud. So today's question is one I hear surprisingly often. Can anxiety exist without a clear reason? Let's spend the next few minutes thinking about that together. If you've ever woken up feeling anxious before your feet have even touched the floor, or you've been sitting on the sofa watching TV and suddenly noticed your heart's beating faster. Or perhaps someone has asked, "What's wrong?" And your honest answer was, "I don't actually know." Then this episode is for you. One of the biggest misconceptions about anxiety is that there must always be an obvious cause. Something must have happened, some bad news, a difficult conversation, financial pressure, a health scare. Sometimes that's true, but not always. The human brain is constantly scanning for safety or danger. Most of the time, it does this without us even noticing. You don't have to consciously decide whether a loud bang makes you jump. Your brain has already started responding before you've had time to think. In psychology, this is sometimes called threat detection. It's one of the reasons anxiety can feel confusing. Your body can react before your mind has worked out what it's reacting to. Picture this: you're driving to work on an ordinary Tuesday. Nothing usual has happened. Then, without warning, you notice your breathing becoming shallower. Your shoulders tense, your stomach tightens. Your first thought might be, "Why am I feeling like this?" The more you search for an answer, the more anxious you become because you can't find one. It's almost as though the anxiety itself becomes the thing you're anxious about. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl once wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is your power to choose your response." I think that's a helpful thought right there. Not because we can check whether anxiety appears, but because we can gradually learn how we respond when it does. One thing I've noticed over the years is that people often assume anxiety is trying to tell them something catastrophic. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's simply telling you that your nervous system has been under pressure for longer than you realized. Think about the week you've had. Perhaps you've been sleeping less, looking after children, supporting aging parents, working longer hours, making one decision after another. None of these things on their own seem dramatic, but together, oof, they create a very different picture. Anxiety isn't always caused by one large event. Sometimes the accumulation of many small pressures that never had a chance to settle. Researchers have found that chronic stress can leave your nervous system more sensitive to future stresses. In other words, the bucket was already quite full. The final drop simply made you notice it. Here's something else worth thinking about. We often ask, "Why am I anxious?" Perhaps another question is, "What has my mind and body been carrying recently?" Those are very different questions. One searches for just one simple explanation, the other invites a bit of curiosity. There's also something reassuring about understanding that anxiety itself isn't dangerous. Uncomfortable? Absolutely. Exhausting? Oh, it certainly can be. But anxiety is a normal human response. The goal isn't necessarily to eliminate it completely, it's to understand it well enough that it no longer controls every decision you make. Something I sometimes say in counseling is this: the body often tells a story before the mind has found the words. That's worth sitting with for a moment. Because perhaps your anxiety isn't arriving without a reason. Perhaps the reason simply hasn't become clear yet. Or perhaps there isn't one single reason at all. Maybe it's the combination of months of pressure, years of pressure, decades of pressure, unspoken worries, interrupted sleep, constant responsibility, and very little time to recover. As we come to the end of today's conversation, here's something I'd invite you to notice this week. The next time you feel anxious, instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" see what happens if you ask, What might my mind or body be trying to tell me? You may not find the answer immediately, but you might discover a little more compassion for yourself. Thank you for spending these few minutes with me. Until next time, take care of yourself.